Good day, everybody. How's it going? Hope you're all having a wonderful day. I'm Tim Meister, and welcome back to the beautiful city of Oxbourg, where in this episode, we're going to be commencing the construction of a large industrial area just over here near downtown. So I've been struggling for a long while to figure out what I wanted to do over here, but I think the large industrial area is the best option for now. We have a ton of industrial demand, and if we want to boost our economy even further, we got to start investing in some more manufacturing. We have a whole bunch of different industrial unique buildings that we can plop down in the city to further grant more perks. And because of this soon-to-be industrial area's proximity to the water, I figured, why not build a cargo harbor? It would ease the exports and imports into the region without having to rely on trains and highways going through the city. And, we can load balance our multiple ways of importing goods into the city. But as you can see, it's rather large, so we're definitely going to have to do some landscaping to get this to fit in here. And as you may have noticed as well, there's simply not enough room without doing something with this little creek over here. And I really want to keep it because it's kind of like a natural watershed from these rolling hills here on the main island. But, there's nothing that prevents us from doing a little landscaping and just converting this naturally forming river into an artificial canal. So that is what we're going to start off with for the first part of this episode. And I think if I make the mouth of this river over here, I think that's going to help us out. I think that's going to give us enough room to build our large cargo harbor. So if I kind of just move this off to the side up until around here, I suppose, and then we'll make a sharp turn to connect everything up. Actually, you know what? I'm going to smooth this out a little better. So if I do something like that, then we'll have a nice smooth slope down to the sea. And then all I have to do over here is convert this stretch of road into a bridge. And then immediately we're going to see water flooding into this new waterway. And then I'm going to have to do the same over here. Yeah, I'll just do that. And then I can convert this back into a regular level road. And then I can go ahead and fill in all of this river. Now, in a way, it's kind of a shame because I actually kind of really like this creek, how it zigzagged, and I don't know, I just thought it looked pretty cool. But it's okay. We still have this one over here, and I intend to mostly keep this one in a complete natural state. There, I'll just widen this a little bit more, and there we go. So how does that look? That's not too bad. I'll just go ahead and clean this up a little bit more. And you know what? I mean, this whole piece of land here is going to become developed anyways, so I may as well just remove all of the trees. Just like so, and then they just won't be in the way. There we go. Beautiful. And now the next step is going to be to plop or figure out where we're going to plop this this cargo harbor. So if I plop it, yeah, it looks like I'm gonna have to move around these roads too. I'm gonna have to move them a little bit more inland, it appears. So let's go ahead and do that. For now, yeah, I'm sure this is probably going to cause a little bit of a traffic conundrum, but if I remove this stretch of road, then at least we have this one as a backup, but it makes for quite a detour. But that's okay. It's all in the name of progress. So what I'll do for now is just remove and flatten all of this terrain. Just like this, and then I think if I plop the harbor like right around here, as far as I can get it, just like this, and then I'm just gonna use move it to put it in place. Oh no, I wanted to put it like directly against the canal, but that might not be possible. Actually, what I might have to do is if I move it a little bit farther down this way, there is a warehouse upgrade that we can add on. And if I plop it, oh, I guess it's not really liking the landscaping, but if I reclaim some of this land, maybe up to like here. If I build on this warehouse, beautiful, that is exactly what I was hoping for. So I can build this little warehouse directly against the canal. So now, oh, I guess I can't move that with move it, so I'm just gonna scooch this entire thing a little bit more this way, and then I believe I can relocate our warehouse just like this. Yeah, and that'll give me a chance to make like a proper barrier. But yeah, look at that. All right, let's just zoom out here, take a look how this integrates with the rest of the environment. I think it looks pretty good. Now the next step is, see, I don't want this main avenue to be directly connected to this, because that's not really how cargo harbors work in real life. You know, normally you have like a toll booth kind of leading up into the cargo harbor, but it looks like it's kind of already built into the asset itself. So instead, what I could do is build like a 2-lane one-way and connect this directly. You know what? I think that would be better, actually. Yeah, and then this avenue, I guess, could kind of go a little bit more inland. I'm just trying to think this through. Sometimes it's all about making things make sense. So yeah, I'll have the main avenue going inland a little bit more this way. And basically the idea behind what I'm doing here is, rather than connecting the port directly to this main road, I want to segregate traffic a little better. So this main road, its purpose is to connect the airport with downtown. So there's gonna be a lot of through traffic coming through here, and I don't want trucks weaving in and out of traffic, and it's just gonna cause a big bottleneck and a big mess. So what I'm doing instead is I'm gonna connect the port up to a one-way street that will exit and enter the main avenue, this main arterial road here at different points. So hopefully that's gonna function a little better. There. That's not too bad at all. That's pretty good. And then actually, I don't think this requires a road connection at all. So now what I'll do is I'll just build a one-way going out from here. Connect this up like so. And then I'm gonna just for funsies, I'll build like a little one-way exit going like this, and then we'll remove roadside parking. We don't want any of that. There we go. Same thing over here. We don't want any roadside parking along this road. There, wonderful. And on this side, I have a little idea. What if we just kind of wrap this around like this? And we'll figure out what's going to happen from this point on, I suppose. Oh yeah, that's right. I totally forgot. there's a second and I guess third upgrade that we can do to this building. One of which I really wanted to do is the railway connection. And luckily, so I made sure this was going to end up right before this episode, but luckily our little train connection sprout is on this end, and we just knew this was coming, guys. We have our rail connection coming through here, so what we can really easily do is convert this into a bridge, and then I'll go ahead and flatten out this land just like so. Is this going to be the exact same height? Yep, it looks like it is. Now we're going to have to maybe have like this section in a kind of artificial canal scenario. And then trains. We'll do a two-way, one-lane track. There, how's about that? Pretty good, I must say. If I scooch this over just a tiny bit, there we go. Oh, nope. Okay, I better not touch anything. Here, I'm just gonna leave it as is. There we go. Yeah, that looks awesome. So officially, all I have to do is connect up my boat waterway just like this, and here we'll make this into a loop. There we go. All right, so now this should be totally functional. Oh, actually, nope. It'll be functional once I get some cargo ships coming in. There, and I think this is probably the only... Oh, no, we actually have another route coming in. Oh, pathfinding failed. Does it not connect? Yeah, I don't know. That should work. Maybe these lines are not allowed to cross or something? Okay. And I have anarchy on too, so... Oh well, that's okay. We'll just have one cargo route for now. And then we better hook up this one way here before things start piling up in our seaport. So for now, what I'll do is I'm just gonna connect this one way up over here. And what I'm thinking is to create maybe a little interchange between Amity Street and this one way here. But for now, I'll just connect it up just like this. Awesome, this is exciting. Okay, now what's next? Like in a lot of North American cities these days, we're seeing less and less massive manufacturing plants. There still is some in a few iconic cities like Detroit with its auto manufacturing industry, but in most cities, what we find is these districts that are just filled with big warehouses and distribution centers, and that's what we're going to be building here today. So, what I'm going to be doing in this case is instead of just zoning a whole bunch of industry, we're going to just sift through all of our menus here and find large warehouse looking buildings that we can plop down. And actually one of the buildings that will fit perfectly within this build is the post sorting facility because it is absolutely massive. It looks like a giant warehouse because that's effectively what it is. And on top of that, we could actually use some more mail services here in the city. And this is the spot where I think it is gonna go into. So if we plop this down just like so, it looks good, but I think I'm gonna terraform this island because there's like a quite massive hill here in the middle. I think I'm gonna get rid of it completely. And then with the power of move it, I can simply select all of these nodes, and then we'll go into our toolbox and we'll do to terrain height. Nope. Okay, well, we'll do to object height, and I'll select this object because it is almost right down to the ground. So I think this is about right. And there we go. So if I replop this building, beautiful. I'm just gonna have to widen this creek over here a little bit in this corner. There we go. And then the same here. I'll just build a little bit of a bump. Wonderful. And then let's see what kind of upgrades that we can apply to this building. So we have a mail storage extension. Oh, great. This actually tacks on to the side of the building. So for the sake of aesthetics, I'm going to go ahead for it. And, it'll further increase our mail capacity as well. Automated sorting. This doesn't have any aesthetic properties. It just kind of tacks onto the building. And extra loading ramps. What's this? Oh. Is this expensive? 5,000 a month. Allows for more mail trucks to run. Yeah, sure. What the heck? Let's do it. Perfect. That absolutely looks beautiful. Oh my god. I just fixed the last death wave and it just crept up again. Okay, well, just ignore that for now, guys. We won't worry about that. So we've got our very first large warehouse looking building. And in addition to this, what we could do is go through our unique industrial buildings, and there's a number of other large warehouse looking buildings. But I'm gonna hold that off just for now, because the next thing I want to do is to provide better road access, I should say, to this entire area. And I don't want to get too far ahead without building our highway connection to this area, because of course the highway is not just going to end like this. This was totally temporary, this weird connection here, because I want to provide a direct connection to the airport from the highway, but I also want a highway going off into the suburbs as well. I want to service this area and, the entire eastern portion of the island. And here's my proposition. Right now, there's 3 main areas in the city that we need to connect together with highways. We have downtown, or the entire northern part of the city. We have the eastern suburbs, or pretty much the entire eastern portion of the main island, which is going to be home to hundreds of thousands of people, many of which are going to commute downtown on a daily basis. And then lastly, we have the airport, which is a vital piece of infrastructure. There's many people who are going to be coming to and from this airport at any given time. So we need to plan effectively how we are going to connect and converge these 3 areas. And here is what I'm proposing. We have a major artery that is going to lead from the eastern suburbs into downtown, and then we're going to provide 2 connections to the airport. And the reason why I'm going for this configuration is to load balance our highways a little bit. Now, like I mentioned, the eastern suburbs are going to be home to hundreds of thousands of people, and some of those people that are going to be traveling along this main artery are going to want to make their way to the airport. And instead of pretty much backtracking all the way to downtown and possibly getting caught up in some huge bottlenecks along the BQE, because that's totally what I suspect is going to happen eventually, I'm going to provide a little bit of a shortcut. So traffic from the eastern part of the city can simply slip off the highway and embark on a little shortcut expressway that is going to lead directly to the highway. And that is traffic that will be alleviated from the highway running along the coastal port area. Hopefully this is going to work out. This is going to be quite a project because we have 3 big old spaghetti interchanges to build in this episode, along with the stretches of highway between them. So we're going to jump into time-lapse mode for the next little while here as we build this all up. And afterwards, we will start to build the actual industrial zone. And as I get started here, I just want to mention one thing. Some of you guys in my last episode have expressed concern over the fact that I haven't built any public transit options going to the airport yet. And your concerns are totally valid. However, believe it or not, that was actually part of the plan. because what we're doing here today is actually phase 1, we'll call it, of connecting the airport to the city, and that is providing a good road connection to the airport. So what we're doing here is we're building all the major highways that will lead up to the airport, and the plan long term is I want to first provide a bus connection to the airport. So we'll get that done this episode. Now that we have the road infrastructure to support such a thing, we'll build an express bus leading from the airport to downtown. We'll get into that a little later this episode. But the long-term plan for this whole thing is I want to build a really robust subway network connecting the entire city together. And the airport is eventually going to get its very own dedicated line connecting directly to the main train station hub in downtown. And now I've drawn out our 2 main connections to the airport, but what I found out when both of these stretches of highway came to their converging point at the airport, I realized that, oh wow, this is gonna have to be a really, really complicated and compact interchange because we don't have as much space as I thought we did to build out this interchange. Because my initial idea was to build an interchange and then have a long enough stretch of road giving drivers the chance to switch lanes and get into the desired lane for arrivals or departures, for example. But I quickly realized that wasn't going to be possible, and I was going to have to provide connections from the interchange itself to both arrivals and departures. So there's going to be a lot more spaghetti involved in building this interchange than I initially thought. But you know what? The more spaghetti there is, the better it is. That's my motto. The more complicated we can make an interchange, the more fun it is. I just have a blast building out these interchanges. So it's going to be a pretty interesting one, and just watch and see, guys, how this is done. So actually what I'm doing here, what you're seeing me do, this is the moment where I realized, okay, there's no way that I can have like 5 lanes converging together and then having such a short stretch of road where drivers have to switch lanes. For example, if you take the rightmost lane, if you stay in that lane, you're going to leave the airport altogether, but you have to go to the innermost lane to get to arrivals or departures. I haven't really decided which level is which, but you know, just look how impossible it would have been for a driver to switch between like 3 or 4 lanes to get into the desired lane. So I thought, nope, that's not good enough. I'm a better mayor than that. I'm a better urban designer than that. We're gonna make it easier for people going to the airport, and instead I'm gonna build a flyover ramp which is going to lead directly into the lower bunk of the airport. You know, I'm gonna base this off of Montreal Airport, where arrivals are on the bottom and departures are on the top. And that seems to be the case for a lot of airports. I don't know if that's kind of like a standard or whatever, but anyways, the bottom is going to be arrivals, the top bunk will be departures. So effectively, I'm going to build a series of flyovers from the interchange leading up to either one of these bunks. Furthermore, just as a little note, in the essence of time, I'm going to be showcasing everything that we've built in this episode at the very end of this episode. So it may look that I'm jumping around here and I'm just building the interchanges and not providing you guys with a good opportunity to see as a whole what we are building. But if you're interested, I highly encourage you to stay tuned to the end of this episode, where I'll take my time showcasing all the interchanges and everything that we're going to build this episode, and it'll give you a good chance to see how it all works. And you know, if you want to pause the video at that point and just kind of study for yourself how all of these highways are built, then that'll be your perfect opportunity to do so. So just letting you guys know, there will be an opportunity for you to see everything that we're building today. And you'll notice throughout the highway construction process that I'm jumping from place to place a lot. I'll be bouncing from one interchange to the next. And the reason why I'm doing that is to figure out what BIFA calls lane mathematics. So of course, you don't want too many lanes merging into one, and you know, there's a way to make your lanes function right. And I'm just trying to do that as best I can. So sometimes I have to work on another stretch of highway to figure out the lane configuration that leads up to the initial interchange. And although it may make it a little harder for you guys to follow, it makes it a lot easier for me to build. So apologies if you find that I'm jumping around here a lot, guys, but it's just part of the process. And yeah, it's this is just me getting carried away and building all kinds of highways. I just love this stuff. But in any case, big interchanges are fun and all, but we also need a series of off-ramps and on-ramps leading onto the highway itself, right? We need cars to be able to get onto the highway from a certain location and get off at another location. And that is why I'm going to provide many entry points and exits leading into the industrial zone at various points. And this whole stretch of road that you're seeing is completely elevated, and you know, there's no real reason for that, except I just kind of based this off of the Gardiner Expressway in Toronto, where part of it leads more or less through an industrial zone that is slowly being redeveloped into condos and apartments. And I can't wait to see what this whole area in real life is going to look like in another 20 years. It's going to be crazy. But in Oxbourg, our industrial park is very much alive and is not in the process of being redeveloped anytime soon. All right, so for this next short segment, I'm going to start working on the main interchange that will split the BQE into two separate highways. So we'll have the main artery going toward the eastern suburbs, and then we'll have the equally as main artery going through the industrial port leading to the airport. And this is probably going to be the most complicated interchange we're going to build here today, as we're intersecting three highways together, and we're also going to create some off and on ramps leading over to this overpass. And this again is one of the major arteries leading through downtown. This is actually the road going right next to the university. It more or less loops around downtown, so very, very important road. So that's why it's vital that we connect the highway to this main artery. And what makes everything super difficult is the proximity of this interchange from downtown makes it so I don't want to build this huge sprawling interchange. I don't want to completely gut downtown and destroy it. So it's going to force me to make everything here super compact. And, you know, sometimes when you're dealing with different elevations and bridges and overpasses, getting everything to merge properly together is super duper difficult. And I found myself cussing and swearing at multiple points during this build. Let's just say that. You know, the City Skylines 2 road tools are amazing. In most cases, the roads are, yeah, they just work. But when you're pushing the game to its absolute limit, you know, that's when you start to see problems and run into to some obstacles. But it's all worth it, because when you zoom out and you look at an amazing piece of infrastructure that you put together, it's pretty satisfying. And that's what brings me back to City Skylines all the time. Okay, we've completed our massive highway project, and now we're ready to get started in filling in all of this empty space. There's a few things that I really want to make sure to include in this industrial area, and for that, I'm going to hop back over to our little Civic Works mini industrial area over here, and I just want to make sure that we have enough of everything. So, for example, I have this bus depot here. We're currently using 24 out of 35 buses. The city is going to expand way more than what it is now, and I have no more room to plop down any extra garages or to upgrade this bus depot in any way. So, I think it would probably be a wise decision to build a second bus depot over in this corner of the map. So now the question is, where do I build this building? Maybe like right here, as it kind of fits perfectly between the highway and the road. So we'll do that. And again, the city is going to expand massively, so I may as well just go ahead and build out an upgrade. I'm just trying to see how I can like connect this together using some surfaces and stuff, but I think we can make that work. Additionally to the buses, over here we have our tram depot, which is completely maxed out. So I'm using 10 out of 10 vehicles. We do have room to expand over in this neighborhood by placing an extension garage. Oh, okay, it actually fits in the original footprint of the building. But how many more trains do we get out of this? We get 5 trains. Is that going to be enough? How much is the tram system going to expand? It's probably going to expand more than 5, I would guess. So for good measure, I'm just going to build a tram depot. And where are we going to build this? Over here could be pretty interesting. Kind of nestled under part of this interchange. Yeah, let's do that. And then this is gonna be pretty easy because this is just a straight run right into downtown, I believe. Oh, maybe not. Uh-oh, I thought there was tram lines coming out this way. Oh, shoot. Well, hang on. Let's figure this out. I thought for sure I had a tram line coming over here. Oh, okay, so it goes under this bridge. But yeah, so I do have some lines coming over here. So for the sake of not having these annoying icons everywhere, I'm just gonna straight shot this across the bridge and connect. But now it would be cool if we could delete this right turn and then have this right turn going instead. But that's okay, you know, minor details. We'll just ignore that for now. At least we don't have this annoying little icon. All right, there we go. So we've got a bus and a tram depot. Now, in addition to that, it would probably be a good decision to plop a fire hall over in this region. Although fire protection is good, we are getting quite far from any of the fire stations in the city. So what do we want here? Do we want like an urban fire station or even just like a classic fire station? I mean, it's pretty huge. Oh yeah, even a southwest fire station would look pretty cool, I think. And where are we gonna plop this building? Could maybe squeeze it in here or... Oh! Oh, sweet, look at that. Look how perfect this fits over here. Bam, that's what I'm going for. And then as far as upgrades, I'm just gonna leave this building completely stock for now. And I mean, I think this fire station is relatively close to the rest of the industrial zone. It's not too far of a drive. And I think with that, we're ready to go. Let's start building. So for... Yeah, no, we don't want any residential in here. So for the zones throughout this area, I'm going to include a mixture of... We'll do industry, commercial, and office space as well. So it's just going to be a hodgepodge of all different kinds of zones. So let's start with commercial. You know, we have the demand for it. Let's just basically go until we dry up all that demand. Just going to start off. Oh yeah, power lines. I deleted the power lines coming through this region for you know, just to be able to build my highways without there being anything in the way. But I kind of would like there to be power lines running through this whole space. So what I'll do is I'm gonna move this transformer station back near its original location, now that all the highways and everything are in place, and then I'm going to try to build these power lines back in their original spot. So we had some following the side of the highway, just like this. And then what I think will happen is we're gonna straddle the side of this road. And I mean, this is kind of just for aesthetic. This is really not 100% necessary. But if I go from here, yeah, at this point I can just go underground and then reconnect these underground power lines here. There. So it's functional, but it's also aesthetic. Yeah, I'm just gonna build this under the highway. There we go. Get rid of this stretch. There we go. Perfect. So now at least we have like a little stretch of power lines running through here. It's functional. It looks cool. We're going with it. There. So let's keep going. So obviously I'm going to have to build out some roads in some of these big empty spaces. But here, let's add some commercial. I'm just doing... Oh, crap. Oh, no. I was adding the wrong kind of commercial zonage that whole time. Okay, well, let's redo this. I never even noticed. Yeah, that would have been a very unique industrial zone. There. Fixed. And then we'll switch over to some offices as well. Let's get some offices in here. Lots and lots of them. And then we can squeeze in some little industrial areas in between all of these different kinds of zones. Now, one thing that would be really cool is if we had like some Southwest style industry. You know, that would be super cool. You know, like if you go to LA, you have these big industrial zones that are just warehouses, things like that. If we could have those kind of things in City Skylines, that would be super cool. There, so we'll do some industry over here, more offices. There we go. All right. And I'm just going to accelerate the simulation just so these buildings get built a bit quicker. And how's our demand doing? So our demand is coming down. We have no more office demand, which is fine. It's probably just going to creep its way up eventually anyway. But anyways, while we're waiting for these zones to sprawl in, let's take a look at what we can do in this big old empty space. Now, I think this is a good opportunity to explore what kind of unique buildings we could plop here. So we have a variety of different warehouse-looking buildings that I think would fit quite nicely in here. Do we want to do switch on? I think this is rather large. I don't think we're going to be able to fit this here. Same as the vehicle factory, absolute behemoth of a building. But perhaps Oh yeah, look at that, Pharma. Now if we could tip it on its side. Well, not literally, but what I meant was if we could like just move it sideways, we could probably get it to fit. So I'm gonna draw a road going from side to side within this park. So we'll put this at exactly 90 degrees if I can. And then we should be able to fit this building sideways. Yes, just like so. Beautiful. Oh yeah, that fits in perfectly. Now can we recolor this building? I'm not really a fan of this green. You know, this is a bit too modern for this type of setting. So let's just switch this over to a boring old gray. And there. Yeah, that fits in better with the theme. All right, well, let's keep going. Let's put some more offices, although we don't have any demand, but that'll eventually grow. What if we do some like Southwest low density businesses? Would this work? See, I think this might be better suited for some of these smaller zones. Like what if I do this over here? And then maybe like rezone this into Southwestern style. It might look cool. I'm not really sure on that. But I'm going to rezone this into default commercial. Little bit of industry, just because we have the demand for it. Beautiful. Now, what other kind of buildings could we plop in here that look very warehouse-ish? Geological Research Center. No, I think this looks kind of modern and high-tech. Probably not a whole lot we can do. Oh, yeah, actually, I know what we can do. A road maintenance depot. I know we have a couple not too far. I think we have one. Oh, we don't. Yeah, maybe we don't. Okay, yeah, well, this is perfect opportunity then. We can do one right here. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to wall this off, just like so. Awesome, and then in behind here, we can shove some more whatever we find in back. Okay, let's do some industry. Sweet. Yeah, look at that, already 10 out of 10 vehicles in use, beautiful. Let's upgrade this building, giving us an extra 5. We'll make good use of those. Oh yeah, this looks so cool. This is so cool. This is exactly the look that I was imagining. You know, just these big warehouses. Very few, you know, like actual manufacturing, things like that. You know, what we want here is big open warehouse type buildings. Now, if I was going purely for aesthetics, what I could even do is just use the static ploppable zoned building, and then I could go through here and, like, you know, plop some non-functional warehouses, things like that. I don't want to do that. Yeah, I want this to be naturally zoned in, and I actually want it to work. What I'm looking for here is kind of like a form and function. The balance between the two. And this brings us into the final portion of this episode, where I'm simply going to zone this entire thing with a mixture of industries, offices, and commercial space. And I'm just going to basically try to blend the two evenly together, just so we don't have too much industry in one cluster leading to a lot of air pollution. Because unfortunately, the wind is actually pushing this air pollution directly into the eastern suburbs. But my hope is that staggering the industry zones here and there is going to mitigate that. So for the next few minutes, we're going to zone everything up, and then we're going to get into, well, I suppose this isn't the final stage. I lied just a second ago. The final stage is going to be detailing everything up. So, you know, once everything is zoned and all built up, we're going to go in between all of the crevices and the cracks between these zones and add some trees and textures and all kinds of fun props and things. And that will basically conclude this episode. And holy, was this ever a packed episode, and we're not even done yet. So we are going to be back in cinematic mode for the next little bit. And I'll just kind of narrate what's going on here and there, as I normally do. But essentially what I'm doing here is I kind of only realized later in this build that I find the terrain is a little too high. Like this creek, I don't know, it's a little too low. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to smooth out the terrain all over the industry zone. But not too much, because otherwise it's going to like smooth out the canal a bit too much and ruin it. So I'm just gonna be very careful here with my brush set at 50% and just kind of smooth all the edges and, you know, just make this look a little bit more natural. And I opted to keep this river mostly natural. So instead of building like an artificial canal like we did for a portion of this river, a lot of it is going to remain in its natural curvy state. So that's why there's going to be a lot of green space in this industrial area, more so than what you would typically find, I guess, in a lot of North American cities. So there's going to be a lot of empty space, and I'm going to fill in a lot of these empty spaces with trees, green space. I'm also going to build out some just empty parking spaces, things like that. You know, basically just filler. And lately I've really been enjoying these riverbed textures from the Paradox Workshop. And I'm going to add a ton of these throughout this build. I just find they add a little bit of texture. They kind of elevate whatever it is you're working on, because, you know, the plain old default texture is fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but I just like to create a little bit more variation. And then conforming to the terrain and conforming to the river, I'm going to build out these random little parking lots, you know, where we're just going to put down some construction vehicle props. And I'm not going to go too crazy in this episode as far as detailing. You know, I'm just going to stick to the basics and, you know, maybe add a couple of decals on the ground here and there just to make everything look a bit grittier. But I'm not going to detail everything too crazy. Just some of these big open spaces where, you know, I couldn't necessarily get a road out here to build some warehouses and stuff. Just a big old empty parking lot is perfectly fine. But in this case, this parking lot's not going to be empty at all, actually. It's going to house the many delivery vehicles from the mail distribution center. So we're going to have a bunch of delivery trucks and mail trucks parked out back here. And this is just kind of like a custom addition to the mail distribution center. And here we are, guys, back in live play, and believe it or not, everything that we've built in this episode is on your screen right now. So, as promised, I'm gonna breeze over everything that we've built this episode and give you guys a good chance to see everything kind of like in one big scope. So let's start over here by the airport, which actually isn't complete. Now I'm gonna take a moment in just a moment to fully complete this airport. Just minor details left to do. But take a look at this complicated interchange over here, this spaghetti bowl that we've got going on here. So as I was explaining earlier, I didn't quite have enough room to just have an interchange come in and then give drivers an opportunity to then split off into whatever direction they want to go. You know, if they want to go to arrivals or departures. So rather than having that, because of the space constraints, I had to actually implement all of these choices within the interchange itself. For example, like I explained earlier, if I want to go to arrivals, which is on the bottom over here, I'm trying to highlight this road, but this road over here. So this leads to arrivals. So if I'm coming from this way, the way to the arrivals is staying in the center lane, and then we have an overpass that kind of swoops over and then merges onto the arrivals. Whereas if I want to go over to departures, I can still use the center lane and just turn right over here. And then this bridge, if you follow it, it meets over here on the departures deck. And I guess the same thing kind of goes for over here in this part of the interchange as well. You have a lane going off into the industrial area, highway over here, or if you stay in the left lane, you'll just keep going straight. Just one lane switch is required to go to the airport. Otherwise, you're going onto this coastal road here leading into downtown. So this is it. This is the highway infrastructure leading up to the airport. So there's two major ways into the airport as we have it set up. So we have this coastal road here. We can imagine that once upon a time, this would have been the only option to go to the airport. And then as the city grew and expanded, eventually this highway would have been added on later on. So it makes for a pretty unique looking interchange over here. Just like we discussed in the very beginning of this episode, we have one interchange over here, but this is a very simple interchange, which I didn't get a chance to actually feature in this episode. So the only reason why you would use this stretch of highway is if you're coming from the eastern suburbs. So if you're coming from somewhere over in this corner or way over here, there's going to be a highway kind of going off into this direction somewhere. I haven't gotten to that yet. But if you're coming from this direction and you're going to the airport, this is the way to go, because there is only one way to get off the highway and then get to the airport. Otherwise, if you're coming from any other direction, you're going to be accessing part of the BQE and then using this stretch of highway to get to the airport. And also what I've done here, this stretch of road, I've provided an exit for any traffic that wishes to go to the eastern suburbs. And this is meant for any traffic, any trucks coming from the industrial area that may be delivering goods to some businesses over in the east end. Then you can take this little on-ramp here, get onto the highway, and you're on your way. Otherwise, we have a number of smaller interchanges that just connect all of these level streets up to the highway. So we've got this little mini interchange here. So if you're coming from anywhere in the city, northern or western or whatever the case may be, you're going to stay on this stretch of road, and then you can take this exit, and that'll lead you right into the cargo harbor. So apart from that, we've got another little interchange over here to get on and off the highway, kind of a little shortcut over to neighborhoods that are eventually going to be built in this area. And that's pretty well it. You know, there's little off and on ramps kind of dotted all over this this little industrial zone. But all in all, this is it. Now, the last thing I want to do here is just briefly go over the big interchange from this episode. This is this monstrosity over here, so it's essentially a Y interchange if you remove all of the bulk. The reason why it looks so much more than a simple Y interchange is because I've added off-ramps and on-ramps for Sunset Street over here. So like I mentioned a bit earlier on, so this is kind of like the main artery looping around downtown. This is where the university is over here. We have Central Park, so this is a very important road. And I just thought that it would be a very good idea to properly connect up the highway to this road. And see, if you're on Sunset Street, you can actually go in any direction you want if you're getting onto the highway. So if you take a look here, we can go right off to the industrial park, or we can go left off into the eastern part of the city. Same thing with this this off-ramp. So traffic coming from the industrial park or the airport can take this exit, and this stretch of highway right here as well. Drivers can get off the highway and connect to Sunset Street. So in effect, that's pretty much it as far as highway infrastructure. I'm going to show you some cinematics in just a moment here too, guys, giving you a glimpse of everything a bit more close up. You know, we have our rail yard here that I kind of decorated a little bit with some textures and things like that, and, you know, just kind of decorated a few random yards here and there. So I'll showcase that in the cinematics that are coming right up. But before ending this episode, there is one more thing that I told you that I would do, and that is to provide, at the very least, a bus connection to the airport. So we're going to build an express bus that is going to lead from the airport to downtown, to the main station. To do this, I'm not even sure how well this is going to work, but we're going to give it a try. So we're going to start things off at the airport end, and I'm going to add 2 stops in the departure area, and then I'm going to do the same for arrivals. And here is what we're going to do. I'm going to pause the game first of all, and we're first going to start off at departures. So the bus will arrive from downtown, drop off its passengers. It's going to do 1 loop. It's going to go to arrivals to pick up passengers that have just landed. And then we're going to make our way all the way downtown to the main bus station for the entire city. And then we're just simply going to loop back and go directly to the airport. There we go. Perfect. And we'll do bus line number 5. We'll name this airport to downtown. Oh my god, I can't spell. Downtown. There, and we'll change the color of this line. Let's do like a bright white. And there we go. So let's just take a look at how this line is set up. You can see that we're making use of the BQE. We're making use of this new stretch of highway running along the industrial zone. So running along the highway is going to be a little more effective than running along Amity Street, because you know, there's just so many stoplights and whatever, and you have to drive through the downtown traffic. Whereas this way, you can simply get right onto the highway and bam, you're at the airport. And so yeah, that's set up. That's perfect. Now there's one more thing I want to add. I purposely left a little bit of an empty space here because we have the hotel, the main hotel. Oh crap, did this upgrade? This building totally upgraded because I don't remember it being this tall. Well, it still looks okay. So I'm just gonna lock the building level so it doesn't become like a massive skyscraper, but it's okay as is. So first thing here, what I'm going to do is just remove this water tower. I'm going to plop it somewhere else, but where are we going to plop it is the question. I think I'm just going to relocate it. I'm just going to relocate it over here for now. And maybe it's probably going to move again, but I just wanted to get it out of the way. And plus, I mean, there's plenty of industry over here. I don't want to pollute the groundwater and then make our citizens sick. So that's why I'm moving that right now. So yeah, the very last thing I want to do here is plop a Northeastern Inn. And this is another hotel. And just like a lot of airports around the world, It is not unusual to find a bunch of hotels just outside of the airport grounds. And that is what we're going to build here. Actually, I'm going to move this over just a tad, just like this. Yep. And then we'll do a big old parking lot, of course. We got the room for it. So we'll plop this just like so. And oh my god, this is actually kind of like a wall-to-wall building. I never really noticed that. Okay, in that case, why don't we... Let's do a little bit of trickery here. If I could maybe combine two of these buildings together, it might look a little better. So if I do something like this... Yeah, honestly, that looks pretty good. And what I'll do here is just build out a road, just like so. We'll have a nice little roundabout at the end. And we'll plop a medium-sized parking lot. There, that was the only thing I wanted to add here. And you know what? I see a perfect opportunity for a mural. Let's try and plop a nice mural because I just recently downloaded a beautiful collection of art. And let's see here what we can fit. You know, maybe a giant cat. Or maybe a Spock. Or how about something welcoming? Let's do, there, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do some beautiful artwork welcoming you into the city. That looks pretty darn cool. There. All right, guys. Well, that is just about gonna be it for this massive episode. And what I'm thinking for next episode, I would like to develop this little area here, finally completing downtown. And we're going to take things a little slower. So this was an absolute behemoth of a project to complete in one episode. So we're going to slow things down. We're going to zoom in a lot more. We're going to work on the micro level a bit more. And I'd like to finish up this area of downtown. And there's going to be lots of interesting things over here. Unfortunately, I had a lot planned here for the release of Bridges and Ports. But we're just going to have to make do without that for the time being. But that's okay. We can work around that, not a problem. So guys, that is going to be it for this episode. I thank you so much for watching. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, as usual, drop a like, leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if there's anything I should improve on or anything that I could fix. And if you enjoy my content, don't forget to subscribe. And if you'd like to support the channel even further, consider becoming a YouTube member or a patron, as there's some pretty cool perks on there, such as early access to all my videos. So guys, that's it for me today. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.